You don't lose interest because you're lazy. You don't lose interest because you lack discipline. And you definitely don't lose interest because something is wrong with you. You lose interest because your brain loves the beginning, but fears the middle. Think about it. A new hobby feels exciting for a week. A new relationship feels electric at first. A new goal feels powerful when you first imagine it. But then something shifts. The excitement fades. The motivation dips. And suddenly, what once felt interesting now feels heavy. You start questioning yourself. Why can't I stick with anything? Why do I always get bored? But here's the part no one explains. Your brain is wired to chase novelty, not consistency. It loves the spark of something new because new means dopamine. New means possibility. New means reward. But once the brain understands something, once it becomes familiar, predictable, and slow, the dopamine drops. And when dopamine drops, interest feels like it disappears. It's not that you stop caring. It's that your brain stopped feeling stimulated, and that difference changes everything. Because what feels like I'm not passionate anymore is often just your brain adapting to predictability. And the moment something becomes predictable, your brain starts scanning for the next new thing. When something is new, your brain releases a chemical called dopamine. Most people think dopamine is the pleasure chemical. It's not. It's the anticipation chemical. Dopamine spikes when your brain senses possibility, a new project, a new idea, a new person, a new plan for your future. Your brain lights up because it doesn't fully understand what's coming yet. Uncertainty plus potential reward equals high dopamine. But here's the hidden mechanism. Dopamine is strongest before you fully understand something. Once your brain figures out the pattern, the spike drops. Once the hobby becomes routine, the relationship becomes stable, or the goal becomes repetitive, the novelty fades. And when novelty fades, your brain stops flooding you with motivation, not because the thing stopped being valuable, but because it stopped being unpredictable. Your brain is a prediction machine. The moment it can predict what will happen next, the excitement decreases. Think about the first time you watched a movie you loved. There was suspense, there was curiosity, there was surprise. Now imagine watching it for the 10th time. It's still good. But the emotional intensity isn't the same because your brain already knows what's coming. The same thing happens with goals and interests. At first, everything feels new and uncertain. Your brain is guessing, and guessing is stimulating. But once the steps become clear and the process becomes repetitive, your brain shifts from excitement to efficiency. Efficiency feels calm. But to you, it feels like boredom. This is where most people misinterpret the signal. They assume interest disappeared. In reality, the dopamine spike simply normalized. And here's something even more important. Your brain evolved in an environment where seeking new information increased survival, new territory, new resources, new opportunities. Curiosity kept humans alive. So your nervous system is biased towards scanning for the next new stimulus, which is why scrolling on your phone feels easier than sticking with one task. Your brain gets small novelty hits with every swipe, tiny unpredictable rewards, constant microdopamine. Compared to that, long-term goals feel slow and repetitive, and slow feels unstimulating. So when you lose interest, it's not a personality flaw. It's a mismatch between your brain's reward system and modern overstimulation. Your brain adapted to crave novelty. But modern life provides novelty too easily, which makes sustained focus feel harder than ever. Here's where it becomes even more interesting. You don't actually lose interest at the beginning. You lose interest when the work becomes predictable. There is a specific moment most people never notice. It's the shift from excitement to repetition. In the beginning, you imagine outcomes. You imagine success. You imagine how it will feel. Your brain feeds on that imagination. But once you move past the fantasy phase, reality appears. Repetition, slow progress, small improvements that don't feel dramatic. And this is where your brain quietly asks a question, is this still rewarding? If the answer isn't immediately stimulating, dopamine drops again. Not to zero, just lower than before, and your brain interprets that lower stimulation as a loss of interest. But here's the twist most people miss. This is the exact point where growth actually begins. The middle is where skill builds. The middle is where consistency forms. The middle is where mastery quietly develops. But the middle does not feel exciting. It feels neutral. and your brain confuses neutral with boring. Modern life makes this worse. You're constantly exposed to instant stimulation. Short videos, notifications, quick rewards. Your brain gets trained to expect fast novelty, so when something moves slowly, it feels dull by comparison, not because it lacks value, but because it lacks intensity. This is why people jump from hobby to hobby, from goal to goal, from interest to interest. They aren't chasing passion. They're chasing the dopamine spike of the beginning, and the beginning always feels magical. But the beginning is not where results live. Results live in the part your brain calls boring. Here's the shift that changes everything. You don't need more motivation. You need to understand the dip. The moment interest fades is not a signal to quit. It's a signal that novelty has turned into process, and process is where real change happens. Instead of asking, "Why am I bored?" try asking, "Is this just the middle?" Because every meaningful pursuit has 3 stages: the spark, the slump, the skill. Most people quit in the slump, not because they lack passion, but because they misunderstand their own brain chemistry. When dopamine drops, your brain looks for a new spike. But if you stay through the dip, something different happens. Your brain begins to shift from excitement-based motivation to identity-based commitment. You stop doing it because it feels thrilling. You continue because it aligns with who you want to become. And identity is more stable than excitement. Here's a practical mental reset. When you feel interest fading, reduce stimulation elsewhere, less scrolling, less constant novelty. Give your brain space to recalibrate. When overstimulation decreases, normal activities feel engaging again. You don't need to chase the next new thing. You need to let your dopamine baseline stabilize. And most importantly, stop labeling the dip as failure. The dip means the fantasy phase ended. Now the real work begins. You're not inconsistent. You're wired for novelty in a world that weaponizes it. But once you understand that wiring, you stop mistaking temporary boredom for permanent disinterest. You're not broken. Your brain just loves the beginning, and now you know how to survive the middle.